And the other part that I've learned, and it's been phenomenal and a game changer, is focused listening. And that is not just a phrase. Has anybody heard of action learning? Okay. When I learned this in graduate school, I was like, you got to be kidding me. You want me, and in counseling classes, you want me to say something and repeat what the person said to me. I said, that's going to drive them crazy. But the methodology, which I can't touch on it at length here because we don't have enough time, is to say things like, I heard what you say. If I'm correct in understanding, this is what you said. Am I capturing it? And like I said, I remember sitting in grad school going, thinking, I think I'm an idiot. But it is a very important process because you're constantly in a goal when you're having a good conversation of having that person feel seen, heard, understood. The gift of focused listening can reveal a lot. And I coach and counsel a lot of people where when we give them that gift, it builds their confidence, it builds their trust, and there's a leap forward of things that will get shared and will get told that wouldn't happen otherwise. People can sense when you're there and you're paying attention to them. I think that is the biggest luxury item we have right now, where we're not pivoting to a pop-up message, that we're not pivoting to our phone, that we've taken off all our calls and saying, at least for the next 15 minutes or so, it's all about you. And it makes a difference at home and at work. Now, I'd love to tell you everything's picture perfect in all those settings, but it's not. But if we can be intentional, that's great. We also have to look at the different styles and cultures. And a memory came up about when I was working with, I worked with a couple of British companies, which was interesting because it was like live theater every day. But I worked with a North American supply chain group with a British company parent, and the emails were amazing. And there's one that sticks out in my mind where we got this work of art email full of saying things like schedules, processes, diaries, a plan, perfect English, well-formed sentences and paragraphs. It was awesome. And you know what the supply chain engineers responded with? Got it. So I sat with the group and I was like, could you have given them an extra sentence or two to have them feel they were seen, appreciated, you got what they were saying, like work a little bit. But that is my prompt forever about work a little harder to meet people where they are in our conversation does go a long way to bridge what was a divide then and sometimes now.
Absolutely. That's a perfect example, Julianne. I'm sure many other people on here are smiling and nodding in recognition of that kind of exchange and correspondence.
I'd say in every industry, there is definitely different lingo, jargon, acronyms that people use. You know, in the service industry and restaurants, it's heard. Like, I need this, and they just say heard, which is got it, right? Which is the same
Yeah.
thing. And you are just hoping they get your order right, right? So it's a whole
Yes.
other culture.
Yeah, that acknowledgement makes a big difference. So paraphrasing, parroting back what you heard and confirming. And my expression always is spend a little time. You feel like you're wasting time to save time in the long run. All right.
I
So
could,
here,
Jules, I just wanted to say, I find myself, if I'm in a crazy, crazy day and I always try to recheck my emails before I send them, more for anything for tone, because
mm,
we'll do something, okay, and then I'm like, okay, let me try to be a little more gracious, and I go back. So in my head, like the post-it notes, I have one in my head that always says, go back, let's be a little bit more gracious, even if it's a full sentence, as opposed to you're in a conversation.
thank you, Sarah. And it's so true because we think we're being efficient and, let's chatty. And we have to kind of switch gears and figure out what it means, it feels like, and building up rapport. The other thing I'm going to throw in before I move on to the next thing is we talk about conversations and talking with our teams, talking with our vendors. having those small moments matter, because when things go south or there's a challenge, you already built some kind of consistency about your style and they know it, and it's an easier to tackle. I talked about working with lawyers a few slides ago, and one of the reasons sometimes things didn't escalate is people were willing to sit down and talk. They knew what my values were, what my intentions were. It wasn't dealing with a problem fresh out of the gate with a new entity. So investing that little time in rapport building can really help in the long run. The lesson though, as I mentioned, yes, sorry.
I'm sorry, Julianne, I just wanted to add on to what you said if you have time for that.
Yeah.
Um, I have found that some people will tell me, I don't want to know anything except what you need to tell me. Like people have actually said to me, I'd like a shorter email. I only want you to provide the information. So I think some of what you're saying is to learn who your audience is, even if it's an individual, and respond in the way that is most effective for both of you to get the end result that you both need, even if it's antithetical to me not to start out by saying, how's the weather? How was your weekend? But some people have actually said to me, please cut to the chase. And I'm like, okay, now I understand.
And when you're saying that, when we hear stories from others, we do this like split screen in our head, and I've conjured off an executive. There's actually two of them in my head right now. It was like, okay, notes, we're fine. Here's the process. Off we go. So thanks, Jen. You're hitting a strong point.